We'll call the meeting to order. Phyllis, would you do roll call, please?
Craig Koshaw.
Here.
Bill Carbox, absent. Ken Meyer.
Here. And were you able to read the minutes from the last meeting, Craig?
Yes, I was.
Would you like to make a motion to approve them?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. So, we move on to the first thing. Les, come up here and grab that microphone, or I'll stand there and turn it on one way or another. Okay. No.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it not come on? Okay.
You squeeze that in and then pull down. There you go.
Okay, Les, what you got?
Okay, since I already talked to you and Craig that one day in the office, and you told me to touch base with Phyllis and see where the money would be, and that's what I did, and we had a discussion. Basically what we got.
For the record, say what all this is for.
Okay, it's kind of several things that all kind of tie into one another. It's basically has to do with internet, phones, mobile data, making everything work under the county's advisement with IT. That there were a lot of things that were not, we didn't know up front, and so as near as I can figure, with everything that we had budgeted in Lowit for mobile data and phones, I'm probably going to be off close to $10,000 over budget.
What you had budgeted.
For what I had budgeted. Now, you know, and Mike, and I agree with Mike Brown from the county, is don't try to do this over a couple years. If you're gonna do it right. So the big thing we're missing is security cabinet that will secure our switching. Our building was just never designed to have more than a phone. So we're going to have a vented cabinet. We're going to have to secure all the wiring that comes into that cabinet for the phone switching and any data switching or anything like servers that we would have, and then bring fiber directly from our build, or directly from 7th Street, wherever they can pick up another 5 gig of fiber or whatever we decide, and bring that directly from wherever that point would be to the fire station, because now we're sharing internet with the PD. And for security purposes, Mike just doesn't feel that's a good idea to be sharing that data space, that pipe, basically, that fiber pipe or fiber optic with the PD, because they're going to, when they go to mobile data, they're going to be doing some federal things with criminal background and stuff that they don't want any
sensitive information.
Very sensitive.
Yeah.
So they really would rather, and I think in the long term, shooting wireless internet from the PD with us is not, it's just not going to be practical very long. So
Their stuff has to be separated from ours.
And so that's part of, you know, fiber to the building, securing the cabinet, securing all the internet wiring so that it meets federal guidelines of security for a public safety building. The phones, because we're on a phone system, Lenny and I both, that if that sort of server that's not a county server but it's operating off of the county, if that goes down, Lenny and I are both out of phones. So, because they're not going to support this add-on system that we kind of got.
That we were sold a bill of goods on a few years ago.
We were sold a bill of goods, and we thought we were getting a bargain, and in all reality, we didn't get a bargain.
Okay, so what is it for the hardware, the infrastructure? I'm asking, what's the infrastructure and then the monthly recurring cost?
In the monthly recurring was this that we were given by the county quite a while back. Some of that's changed a little bit. Overall, on like the mobile data, on the mobile data, we're at about 15,000. So if I go through really quickly, the IT to the building and the mobile data stuff is about 15,000, which I have budgeted. It's the security cabinet and the cabling the building and some of those things, getting fiber to the building that I don't have included.
That's an additional 10,000?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the monthly recurring is going to stay the same, you get that already budgeted?
That we already had budgeted.
So the total's really, it's 25, and you've got 15, you need an extra 10?
Well, in the Lowit budget, I would have had 14.5 for mobile data, and then I put 6,900 in for phones, which I'm about by the time the phones are in and some other things, some switches and connection boxes, I'm about 900 off there. Then getting the fiber to the building, depends on whether we can talk community fiber into, it's $1,000 of fiber. Mike suggested that if we're going to plow in an additional pair, as long as they're not going to charge us that. So we would have we'd have a redundant that either,
I understand.
that either the PD could use it if they had to, or we could use it. They'll put a box in the back of the PD, and if they needed more, they could grab it, and if we needed, so we'd have a redundant.
An extra pipe.
Extra pipe.
So back to my original question, 10,000 more in upfront cost, infrastructure, and then is there any more on your monthly?
No,
Okay.
no, because I've already figured in for, wireless connection to the mobile data terminals, and all that stuff was all figured in. It's really the security in the building of a secured cabinet that secures all the switching that we just didn't even figure in, because we figured we
I'm
had
still a
lot
little
of room.
bit lost, though. You're saying it's about $25,000 approximately, and you have 15 budgeted, and you're going to need an additional 10.
I would have 14.5 for the mobile data, firehouse, software, all that stuff, and I had 6,900 for the phones, which I missed that by about 900 by the time. So 69 and 14.5 is how much?
20.9.
20. Okay. Yeah. So that.
So the total cost is about $24,900, 25.
Because it's not any of the ongoing.
Yep.
It's getting up to speed.
If they answer Craig's question, we'll have like a monthly phone bill. So that's
We will have,
a monthly phone bill.
but it's already figured.
You'll have a monthly community fiber bill also.
Yes, and that's not added in, but since we haven't been paying, because the PD's paying, we will have
New
that
charge.
money this year. So we would have that money in there this year, for the 432 general fund would have that, because we're not going to have a whole year of cost on the fiber. So,
Okay. So have you talked with Phyllis about where you're going to get the 10,000?
yeah, I had put in Lowit $10,000 for training, some training stuff, training props and updating some of the training equipment, and Jeff and I talked about it, and it's like there's $10,000 there that it's not life and death that we do those projects this year. So we would have $10,000 in Lowit that was earmarked for something else. So it would simply be a matter of transferring that out of 429 Lowit into 440. 4 or 5, it would depend on whether it's where Phyllis wants to put it, or whether it's hardware, equipment, or whether it's hardware, software. So
Is that all okay with you?
So the answer is basically you're just asking for a $10,000 fixed cost, one-time shot, no more reoccurring charges monthly,
Not that I haven't
and you've
already.
got money in a
Not that I
different
haven't
account
already
for
figured.
Lowit that you're going to pull from training to fulfill this
So
requirement.
it's just going to really,
And how far is that going to put you back in training?
well,
Some props and stuff that we were gonna get extra this year, we'll just probably put off till next year.
yeah. we were
And you'll
gonna
be fine?
upgrade some
Okay.
training props and some stuff.
It's not going to delay your future fire truck or anything like that?
Nothing to do with that, no.
Okay.
Because I just want to be upfront that I hope there's no more unexpected, because I'm figuring about 8,500 that I'm off, but I'm calling it 10,000 just so I don't.
For
When it comes
construction
to
costs,
IT stuff, it probably will be off, so.
It is.
You're wise
It's IT and-
wise to build in the little
You know,
extra.
I think the great thing is
But the,
Mike is leading us all down the
Yep.
right path,
Yep.
I think.
but your whole question here tonight is just the okay to reappropriate money from training in the Lowit to the IT.
Yes.
Out of Lowit.
And
up to $10,000.
up to 10,000.
Okay.
And
I'll make a
Phyllis
motion.
and I already discussed that,
It would be
you know, if
quickest
some
to do a
obscure,
transfer,
something we've missed,
If he needs
I might have to,
do an additional.
and it would be easier to reappropriate out of Lowit, because that would be a local, than it would be to appropriate to the general, because that would require a whole,
I still need to do an additional.
we
like
still need to do
$40, yeah.
a,
So what do you want, how do you want the motion to be?
Are you comfortable with
For a transfer, or?
It's
a motion to
okay
approve
with
the
it.
upgrade and then authorize a transfer of 10,000 out of the Lowit
up to 10,000?
up
From
to
the
10.
429, but I'll have to do that by resolution, council will have to pass that to do the
Okay.
transfer.
So, is that all?
I believe so.
Okay.
I think, the only thing would be,
Oh, here it
are we
comes.
going to do this tonight? I mean, are we going to make the transfer?
Do you want
We
to
won't
have
do
it
it
tonight?
tonight, I'll have to do a resolution.
Because, you know, I would like to spend as much as I have budgeted in the appropriate accounts until we get to a point where, okay, now I need to move. So if I didn't have to move at all, and I still was able to have a couple thousand for some training, so I would like to move it when I know for sure what the,
What Mike tells us what
I got you
the
covered.
amount is.
I'll make a motion that we use up to $10,000 according to whatever the budgeted, up to 10,000, whatever you need up to 10,000.
because I really want to roll
For
on
the-
to getting CFS, to get the fiber,
Yep.
get the cabinet ordered, get the cabinet ordered, because it's going to be already a little bit of time,
Up to,
so,
but not to exceed. If it exceeds it, you come back and ask.
Yep.
and I'm hoping it don't, but,
Okay.
because we're going to do a lot of the cabling, pulling and stuff, we're going to do all that ourselves, so.
Barb, you got the wording on the motion okay? You think
Up to 10,000 of the Lowit training fund for the,
IT funds?
What's the
For the
council?
upgrade of IT infrastructure.
445.
Craig made the
Good to go
motion,
from-
I'll second the motion, and all in favor?
Go to
Aye.
29 to 45. Okay,
You're good to go.
all right, and I'm going to LEPC.
Yep.
So, any questions?
Yep.
Oh, Jim's going to be the answer man now, huh?
In council.
He catches.
Yeah,
You got
that's the way that works.
it. Hey, like cleanup, Jim.
Lenny?
He's a good cleanup hitter, he really is.
Lenny. You're on.
Wait,
What?
Les, did you want to bring up the resignation?
Resignations?
Yeah, I can do that really quick. We had, over the past about month or so, we've had 3 paid on-call volunteers that have resigned. One of them retired. Ed Spangler retired after 27 years. You know, he just decided that he's kind of the only big wrecker in town, and he's busy and doesn't have time for the training and so on. Nate Hirely resigned also due to lack of time being able to commit to training and response, and AJ Birch has had some, he's got a girlfriend in Fort Wayne and he's not here a lot, and he's working a lot of overtime with Fort Wayne Dispatch. He gets called in mandatory overtime a lot, and it's just, you don't have time.
Okay.
They just don't have time. So those 3, and then Taylor moved up, so we have 4 openings. So that's a perfect number of people. So we'll be taking applications and filling
For volunteer.
4 slots. We had one currently. Now we have 3 more. That's perfect class size. So we'll be taking applications soon for.
Okay.
I'd like to make it a matter of record that we accept these resignations, and if you would, thank these gentlemen for their time, for their volunteer service for Peters Fire Department. Volunteer fire department.
We consider retired for 27, so we'll have a little volunteers.
With something for them. But yeah, if you would let those fellows know, we certainly appreciate their services.
Oh, yeah, certainly.
On a voluntary basis.
I'll second your motion, Craig. All in favor? Aye.
I'm just hoping we can find some
Now you can go.
young, ambitious.
Yeah, really. Yep.
Young guys, so, or young.
All right, Lenny. Lenny needs to remove Blaze Brooks from his probationary status and move him to a first-class patrolman as of March 20th, that's today, and to change his pay rate accordingly to an officer with one year of service.
Correct.
Does that sound right?
Yes.
Now, we don't have to prove that, we just need to make that a matter of record also, is that right? So, did you have any comments to go along with that? He's doing a good job, right?
He's doing a good job. He's actually on 3rd shift right now to cover Officer Ham while he's at K-9 training in Fort Wayne.
How many weeks into the training is Corey?
It's about anywhere between 14 to 16 weeks based on how quickly they get the
Right.
training in.
How many weeks in is he?
4th week.
4th week?
Yes.
Does he say it's going pretty good?
I talked to him the other day. He said that the dog's doing great. It did sustain a small injury to the top of his head.
Ah.
They were doing some locker room, and they rewarded the dog with a tennis ball. Well, the dog went after the tennis ball and went underneath a door of a locker and
Lying.
kind of did a little slit there. He took the dog to the Red Barn, and she put a couple stitches on. But the dog was in no pain. It was just, it's a young dog that wants to get out and do things.
Yeah.
So he said, but no ill effects from it.
Cool. Okay. Any other comments on Blaze, though? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
What's that?
Any other comments on Blaze?
No, he's a good young officer.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised his year was already up.
Yeah.
That went by pretty fast.
Blaze promoted to full-time, full-time?
Well, he's promoted to first-class patrolman.
And then their pay
First class.
goes up.
I'm sorry?
And then they go off, their pay goes up
He was
also.
probationary status.
From
Okay.
probationary status. I'd like to make this a matter of record.
Yep. And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same, so, thank you, Lenny.
Okay, thank you.
Next thing, I guess maybe I would like Ann and Don, and probably Jeremy, all of you to kind of come around. We need to do the Country Brook Lift Station project, and that went out to bid, and the bids came in. Don, being relatively new, didn't maybe follow some of the procedures quite like we would have preferred. And we got 2 bids, one from Crosby and one from Fleming. And then after looking at what was bid, there were, I guess, some confusion with the bid specs, and not everyone, and didn't even see the bid specs before it went out to bid. We talked with Tim about it, and realistically, before anything gets bid, every department head that's involved in a project should probably see the bid specs so that if something needs added or changed, we do that, okay? And I know that, Don, I think you'd said that even with the things that were left out of the bid, that if once we add those in, Crosby would still be the cheaper of the 2. But I had a little talk with Tim myself, and personally, I kind of think that just to alleviate any problems at all whatsoever, I think we probably should reject the bids and rebid it and make sure that the bid specs that are bidding on a level playing field. And there's no rush on this, is there, Ann, as far as...
Not really.
No, we just wanted to
It needed replaced 10 years ago.
Yeah. Not pointing any fingers at you, Don, it was your first time doing something like this?
Yeah. I know we talked about having Miller design it, and I thought, well, I didn't have to do anything until we got prices back, but that's my fault.
It's not creating any public safety or health issue for...
We've done a temporary fix on it to get it by.
Okay.
It's just not a permanent fix by any means.
But the whole process, you know, with the fact that Fleming was your former employer was the one bidding, your brother probably put together the quote. You shouldn't be involved in the opening of the bids.
Right.
We probably should do them here at a Board of Works meeting or something. So if you want to advertise it again, everybody review the bid specs.
The bid specs, I think, probably need rewritten, but
Right.
the survey and all, the engineer got the permit from IDEM, so we have that, so.
Yeah, it's just, what I would recommend is, because there seemed to be confusion and maybe some missing pieces of the bid specifications, that we go back, we redevelop the bid specifications, reject the bids that we currently have, revise the bid specifications, have that approved by you, bring it to the board, they sign off on it, authorize letting it for bids, advertise for bids, open the bids here at a regular meeting, and then we can take them under advisement, review them, and then award the contract. I think that's the best way to do it. And then that way, you guys who are most directly impacted have an opportunity to look over the specifications, make sure it covers everything it needs to be covered. It brings it to the attention of the board. They can authorize which engineer is going to do the bid specs, as well as then review the bid specs and sign off based on your recommendations. I think in the future, that's probably the best way to do it.
Has the engineers already done their work?
Yeah, but they had a few things missing that wasn't spelled out.
You're not going to change engineers then, are you? You're just
No,
going to
I
have the
think
same
we
engineer
make
for make the
Miller
corrections?
correct his, what he had missing, and
Okay. Next question would be, was it sealed bids? Do they know what the bids are, or do they know who...
Crosby and Fleming, they know what the bids.
yeah, we opened them in front of everybody, yeah.
I mean, there's a chance that Fleming might not even bid it the second time around if he knows that he's that much higher, or else he'll lower his bid, and then Crosby may have a...
There's no
Well, we're gonna change some things.
No, I
Figure out
think it's
the
just,
exact-
when you...
Yeah.
You're gonna add
Jeremy, what were you gonna say?
some things and change it.
Ken and I talked about this. One excluded a bunch of things that were included because the engineer didn't have enough information in the design. That's why this is kind of looking at, use the engineer for the specs.
Well,
So,
is the engineer capable of making the
Well,
correct bid?
that was my next question. Is his engineer capable of...
I mean, we reserve the right to reject it. Okay. So, as long as we do, I'm just...
You get that, Ed?
I know.
It'd be easier if he could just correct them, but...
Yeah.
They can correct some of the bids. Somebody's trying to argue that you don't have
Okay.
what we want to do. You need the motion to rebid?
Yeah.
Make a motion to rebid?
I reject the bids on this
Reject the
and
bids.
authorize moving forward with the rebidding of the contract.
Okay.
And the bid specifications did reserve the right to reject all bids, correct?
Yes, it did.
Okay. I'll make sure of that.
So make sure my motions are out, okay? We good?
Yeah.
All right. Motion's been made, Ken.
All right, I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thanks. Jeremy, while you're up here, streetlights you wanted to discuss a little bit, or do you want to talk about Kevin's not here, right?
Right.
So let's talk about the roof off the waste treatment plant.
Yeah.
It's the roof on the building that used to be your office and now is the maintenance office.
Yeah, it's the flat roof.
It's a flat roof right now.
We had three price estimates. Two for the flat roof were $36,782 for replacement and $27,785 for replacement.
And that was for a flat roof,
Yeah.
to replace what's up there on flat roof.
Yeah.
And replace with a flat roof.
Right.
Then Berlin asked for estimate for stick with metal roof from
With
Brent
a
Arnold.
slanted roof.
Yeah.
Basically, it'd be a 412 pitch, so you'd put the trusses in. You wouldn't do anything with the existing roof underneath it, you just add the trusses
Right.
and then a metal
Metal roof.
roof over that, and it would give, does away with your flat roof problem.
Yeah.
'Cause that roof
Not
is
a very big
old,
building.
isn't it?
The flat roof is 10 or 15.
Yeah,
10, over 10.
10 or 15.
How big is that
It
building?
always leaks after 10 years.
How big is that building?
Didn't it have square footage?
It's what used to be her office, now it's the maintenance building. Not very big.
No, it's not real big.
1,700.
Yeah.
Square feet.
This is out at the...
So we asked for bids from Brent Arnold, Steve Darling, and Extreme Builders, and the only one that gave us a bid was Extreme Builders.
Okay.
12,800.
And that's going to be with trusses, and then some nailing purlins, and then,
Yeah,
It'll have overhang.
and he'll box in the overhang, and,
you're gonna get a lot more than 10 years out of it.
oh, heck yeah.
Gutter. Is it gutter?
It's got a 1-foot overhang.
Does it have gutter? Well, right now it wouldn't, I guess.
It's got a 12-inch overhang, trusses 4 foot on center.
Soffit.
So like a painted steel that would match your building?
Well,
Similarly?
we'll have to talk
You
to
could
him
choose
about what we can
color.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my thought would be match the roof that
If possible.
Ann has on her new building.
Yeah.
The way it looks uniform.
Gutter included or not?
I don't see a gutter
Okay.
price on there, so we
Oh, you
have to
can-
put gutters on it yet.
You want it? Is that what you want?
Yeah. That's our recommendation, I think, to put the pitched roof on it.
That's Extreme Builders?
Extreme builders.
Reuben Byler.
I've been seeing them around town. They just did a roof down here on Monroe, didn't they, Jeremy? Yeah, I mean, they were in and out. I mean, they got in, tore it off, replaced it.
They made an appointment, they showed up, in a couple days they gave us a quote. The other two guys never showed up.
Craig, you want to make a motion to proceed with that?
I would recommend that we get, that is a local builder, right?
Yeah, local. Decatur.
Yeah, did you set it out for bid, or did you just call 2 or 3 vendors?
No, it's quotes for that price.
Huh?
They only have to get quotes for that price.
Okay, I recommend that we use chamber members if possible, or Main Street members, that's what I would ask for in the future. I mean,
Well,
They didn't
I'll make a
show up
motion
to
that we
give
do
us a
that.
bid.
What's that?
We asked 3 people and only one.
Yeah, I'd recommend that we, our department has used the local people that are supporting our community. That would, my point being is,
Oh,
from now on, I would ask,
but that's wearing your chamber hat.
I know, but it's also wearing my city hat, the one that are paying property taxes and things in this community, so I gotta look out for all of that. I'm just saying,
Yeah, but these guys are...
I'll make a
they're
motion.
local people, they're just not chamber members.
Yeah, he's at the corner of 100 and Pickway Road.
I'm not gonna chase people and beg for, if they want the work, they will show up when they tell you they're gonna be there, and they didn't.
Hey Tyler, you know anything about Extreme Builders? Okay. Is it good work?
It worked for me personally, so I haven't had any problems with it.
You okay?
I'll make a motion. Yeah, I just think it'd be a great idea that our department heads take a look at partners in our community that we do that. That's all I'm saying. I'll make a motion that we accept that if that's what you want to do.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same, thank you. So you got your roof good to go. All right. And Jeremy, you want to talk about streetlights?
Yeah, I've got a couple things.
You got a couple things.
Starting out with on the streetlights, for the last probably 6 or 8 months, we've been doing some streetlight assessments on some pole locations all the way through the city. We are severely behind on pole replacements. Over the years, it just kind of was put on the back burner. The last several years that Roger was here, we have several that are in dire need of replacement.
Poles and lights.
Poles and lights. It's really hard to kind of pick an area to begin. For an example, I talked to Tom Rourke, and on 5th Street, down by the city pool, the poles are about ready to fall over.
And you kind of, the way you worded it was...
From 5th Street, from Park Street to Jackson Street, there's 6 poles. To replace all 6, including fixtures, arms, and poles. New LED fixture. Move the poles all to one side of the road, you're looking at $10,000. If we can reuse existing wire, which I would not 100% count on, you could deduct $1,600 from that cost. If you move down on 5th Street, and this is just some examples, and we can discuss this afterwards, but on 5th Street from Jackson to Monroe, there's 7 poles, and they're just about as in bad shape as the first set, for $12,400. Reuse existing wire, which I wouldn't recommend, would be another $2,200 deduct. And then along the Catholic Church, there's 4 poles from Monroe to Madison. That cost is $6,800. All of those would be...
How much?
$6,800. All of this above work would be replacing everything. I guess my biggest question at this point is, how do we want to approach some of these? Do we want to replace the sections like it's proposed on this street? Do we want to go around and hand pick a bunch of them? I'm afraid if we do too much hand picking, once they start dropping wires, we're going to end up dropping the next pole and the next pole after that. And the next
It's like
pole
what
after
happened
that.
out here on 2nd Street, yeah.
So I guess, Phyllis, I know you have, I believe it's, correct me if I'm wrong, is it out of Common Council, you appropriate $15,000, so obviously we don't have near enough for what we're wanting to do here for the new side.
I do have repairs to streetlights and poles and buildings, $50,000 too, in there.
Okay.
And that's Tom's monthly bills.
Tom's
that he
monthly
sends
bills,
through.
correct, which we're gonna have some of those too.
Jeremy, is there some way that you can, I mean, if these are in danger of falling, obviously that poses a risk. Is there some way that you can secure the base so that they're stable?
No,
Whether you
they're
fix the
rotted-
rest of the light until you have more money to do that?
They're rotted off at ground level. And the actual arms that hold the light on is actually hanging down like this, because the top of the poles are either rotted off or they've been hit by lightning. So the arms are about ready to fall off of them also. For years, Roger's rule of thumb was replace 10 poles per year, is what he averaged.
When was the last time we replaced 10 poles?
He went an average of about 10 years and didn't replace any of them.
Yeah.
Due to some budget cuts and just not being a real big priority.
And what did you budget for this year?
I don't budget it, that's out of common council. That's the 15,000 that she just talked about for new poles.
We do have some money in Riverboat. I mean, if you guys want to use some of that money for something.
What I'm doing
It's up
is
to
I have,
council how they want to spend that
over the
money.
last 3 years, I've created an asset management plan for sidewalks, curb ramps, streets, and other things. We have included the streetlight poles and street lights on that plan. I don't have a lot of that done. That just came out. We started doing that last fall, and it's very time consuming because you have to go inspect each pole and stick each pole with a knife. But I'm going to spend more time on that this spring once I get some projects going, so we know more at budget time what we need to be looking at 19 and 20 and 21 and such, because it's not just like a pole here. You've got blocks, a whole block stretch that, you know, the wires are down real low because the poles are leaning out. We've had issues with concrete trucks tearing the wires down because they're too low. The insurance company has been taking care of those as that happens, but the last couple of times that has happened, the insurance company has called and said, look, you know, we understand this, but, you know, we need to be more proactive at replacing some of these poles.
So there's no conduit in the ground, they're all strung above ground then?
They're all above. What we're proposing on the new ones, though, is that if there is room, is getting the wires to the one side of the street. That way, over time, as the wires droop, they're drooping basically over the sidewalk instead of drooping across the road to where the semis and the concrete trucks and stuff aren't getting tangled up into the wires and pulling the poles down. In a lot of these areas, if you get on one of these rotten poles with a concrete truck, it's not going to be one pole, it's going to be 3 or 4.
West side of 5th Street, is that where you'd be putting these, or what?
We hadn't really determined. What we'd have to do is get locates and see where
makes
the
most
gas
sense?
main is and what makes the most sense where it feeds out of.
So what would you like to do? Would you like to do from Park Street down to as far as Monroe? That'd be 13?
Well, I guess the biggest thing is the big question is how much money do we are we comfortable with, knowing that it's going to have to go throughout all of 18. Do we still want to shoot for that 15,000 and then we hope for the best? Or is there additional funds
I'd like
available?
a couple questions for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
These poles are going to be replaced from the ground up. You're going to cut into the ground and you're going to put a cardboard casting in there and pour. What are you going to do?
They're wood poles. You pull the pole,
Oh, they're wood poles.
auger down, and replace.
So we can't get rid of the overhead lines. We can't go to conduit and put. Okay.
Not in a lot of these areas.
All right.
And
the poles are just rotten and
they're rotting off.
are they tied to AEP or anything too, or is it just our own individual?
They're all ours.
All right.
We do have some lights on AEP
I was hoping it was
poles,
something different.
but when that happens, AEP takes care of their pole.
Well, I mean, strictly from a liability perspective, we need to get these fixed. We have knowledge that there's a problem. That poses a public health risk.
I
If
can
we don't
see-
do anything and somebody gets hurt, we're liable.
I can shake the one at Fifth and Park, and I can't believe it hadn't come down when I was shaking it.
Yeah, I think the comment you made to me was that basically the wires are only holding that pole upright.
The only thing I was thinking was a long term, maybe we had some.
Well, I understand.
Jeremy, is Fifth Street right now the worst target?
Third Street and Fifth Street's probably your worst two areas. At this
Part of
point.
Third?
It's kind of sporadic. Some of them have been replaced on Third, but it's basically in the same area from Madison that way towards your house.
So if you had enough money, could you get these all replaced that need replaced?
Yeah. Well, not all of them, but
Do we have any of the poles the AEP gave us? Could we use any of
we
them?
have a few. And I have talked back and forth with AEP on,
They owe us something right now.
truckload pricing, if we would get a semi-load of poles. And Tom's
Not that
still
many.
checking that. That could reduce this cost quite a bit.
How tall are they, 40?
30, 35, depending on the pole. So, I just want to make you aware of it for one. And
A while back.
And see how you want to approach it. I know these totals are above our threshold, but Tom's about the only local person that can do the type of work, and he knows the system probably the best.
A while back when AEP's been replacing all those poles and putting up the new galvanized jobs, I called our Kim Sobrowski and hit her up and said, hey, what are they doing with not all those wood poles are bad. We'll be glad to take some off your hands. So they gave you some, right?
A lot of them went to Master Drive.
Okay.
We ended up cutting them off because they were really, really long
Yeah.
poles. They're like 40 footers.
Yeah.
I think we cut them down to 25 and took them to Master Drive.
Good.
The majority of them.
I can call her again, see if we can't get some more.
Let me talk with Eric, my local contact, and see
Okay.
if we can do a little bit better on
You
the
got the
small
money?
poles.
Well,
It's a health and safety issue we got to cover.
Well, what I thought we've got $60,000 budgeted for repairs and maintenance of the lights, so, I mean, we'll use this, and if Tom's monthly billing comes in where he replaces the bulbs every so often.
With LEDs, we're going to
If we
save some
go
cash.
over that, maybe if council wants to approve to use some of the riverboat money, I've got money in there, we could use that.
I did meet with Maurice from AEP on an energy savings program. Right now, there's no tariff on LED for streetlights, but he gave me another avenue to go off of so we can actually start getting the credits. So that should be reducing that monthly bill as we start replacing these. We just have to do the paperwork and get it back to him, and then Shelley will
Correct.
give us that better rate on it.
Chairman, so what you're saying is the most critical areas that need replaced are on Fifth Street and Third Street.
Fifth Street and Third Street.
So if you were to do that, are you talking roughly 30 to 40,000 between the two?
Probably.
And you've got 15,000 for street pole replacement, and then you've got this 50,000 that's in this other account. Is that right, Phyllis?
I have a total of 60 in the common council right
Okay.
now that we could use.
Because of the urgency of getting this, I think if the board declared an emergency, authorized Tom to be the contractor to take care of it, if you want to appropriate the funds to allow it, you can go that route if that's your inclination.
I think it's something that we do sooner than later, because these are public meetings and they are recorded, and it's no secret that we're in pretty dire need
Melissa.
here.
Yeah,
Emailed you.
okay,
We got our email.
okay, thank you.
Well,
Okay, well, I will work with Tom and Phyllis on this to get these
emergency, go ahead and get a bid for this.
some way.
Well, but then my thing is, I mean,
Go out on the open.
if we have other areas that are just as bad as
We
Fifth,
do. We do. Let's attack these and get these taken care of, and then I'll get the rest of the assessment done.
okay.
I got quite a bit of the streets done today, so I can jump over and start doing the poles.
We'll make a motion to take care of the street lights. At the request of
All
Jeremy
from
Gord.
Park Park Street all the way down to Jefferson?
It's actually that whole description.
To Madison,
from
brother?
Park
To
to
Madison.
Madison.
1/5. I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thanks, Jeremy.
Well, that was from Park to, what'd you say?
From Park Street, which is by the tennis courts on 5th Street, all the way down to the corner of the Catholic Church.
Corner of what?
To Madison.
Madison Street by the
No,
Catholic Church.
that's out because a lot of the same problems that we're having with these rotten poles.
That was on,
They thought they
Fifth.
had it fixed Friday when I called Tom, and I called him back because he wanted to look at it over the weekend. I called him back
That's what he said, yeah.
yesterday, and he thought they had it, but obviously they don't. So
same.
hopefully this week.
Same basic area, basically.
That's fine. Just
But
don't.
that outage is from the street by your house all the way to 5 Points.
Let's have one other thing on the Board of Works agenda, unless Tim and Phyllis have other things. The only other thing okay, Tim has a couple. The only other thing I have is that yesterday we swore in 3 new police officers. I need to make their certificate of appointments a matter of record, and also their signed contracts a matter of record. And Phyllis has those here.
Their certificate, you and Craig need to sign these, and then I'll
Okay.
get Bill Carbach to sign it later. And the contract has been signed already.
Jeremy, any questions? Does the city cover these in the spring and all?
Yeah, we will, the week after every trash. Sure. Ken forgot about a couple things, so I'm just waiting patiently. Yeah, go ahead.
So everybody that runs into me asks them that you're going to do something
What's wrong with it?
What's wrong?
You mean the Beirut battle zone, I think it was referred to?
We have 3 pieces of water main that we need to stick in on the side streets that was submitted for the original project. And then after that, we're just waiting on the asphalt plants to open. The asphalt plants won't open till the middle of April. And then they normally give it till about the second or third week in May before they start putting surface down. So it'll be early summer.
And then Jeremy made a phone call to Bungie the other day. We've been getting a lot, not only Washington Street, but all the railroad tracks in town are getting pretty rough again. And while that's really, I guess, our responsibility, Bungie in the past has helped us out with somewhat. And go ahead, you talked to Gene Farron, right?
Yeah, I talked to Gene, the plant manager, and back in 2008, 2009, if you guys remember how terrible those tracks were. At the time, Bungie did not have the funds to do much with those crossings. I came back to council on the Board of Works at that time as we discussed all the crossings because we were having so much trouble with it. We partnered with the railroad at that point. The railroad did all the construction work. We purchased the asphalt. As the city is basically, partnership with Bungie
It's got the seal.
to do that work. Over the last couple of years, I've had conversations with Bungie again. It's a lot less or lower scale work. There won't be the construction portion of it, but it's basically just kind of a mill and fill in between the tracks, and it was smoothing out quite a bit. We're still looking at doing that. When we had to low it, special distribution money a few years ago, you guys had approved helping Bungie at that point with some of that money. Due to the lateness of getting the money appropriated for that year, and with the early harvest, it just didn't work out. So that negotiation's kind of back on the table. Gene is looking to possibly pull some asphalt money that they were going to spend in the plant out of the plant and help us with some of these crossings. So probably in 2 weeks, I'd like to sit down and go through the asset management plan with you guys on all the streets and the asphalt, and actually a package for what I feel that we need to start out with this year, and get your input on, you know, the paving areas, the crack seal, some of the construction jobs that, you know, we feel that we need to tackle this year, and in next year. It will more likely be a 2-year plan.
So those guys will take care of the construction of the tracks, and we take care of the paving portion? Is that the deal? Or?
There won't be any construction this round.
Okay.
We
So
completed
it's mill
the
and fill between
construction
the
back
tracks?
in 08 and 09. It would just be basically a mill and fill.
Okay.
They would take the little bobcat mill and a bobcat mill in between the tracks, and then put surface back down.
And that would be our responsibility then?
That
We
would be
contract
between us and Bungie to pay for.
They'll split it with us somehow?
Yeah, well, they're going to do the best they can do. If I remember right, I looked back through my emails today, and I couldn't find it right off, but to do all the crossings except basically from Monroe Street that way, it was like $25,000 or $30,000 that we would pay. We still have some of that low special distribution money left, and I have money budgeted for this year, so it's not really going to be a big hindrance. I think we probably hear more complaints from the citizens about the railroad tracks than what we would consider a financial hindrance. So
I agree.
And I've asked Jeremy on the asset management plan that he does that for all the streets and everything in town, to get me his list of the streets that are going to see asphalt this year, so that when you guys get asked, you can let them know, and we'll include with you the ones that aren't going to get them, but you're just at the next year, so that you can kind of say, well, yours this year looks like next year for you.
Actually, Brooks Construction was in today when we were in the meeting in the back, and he took my list and he went out, and he's going to have us basically a first round, second round, possibly third round into 19. That will help us at budget time, because some of these streets we're getting to the point that we may need to up the asphalt budget a little bit going forward.
Okay. I have one question there. On that, on their portion of the land, just to the northeast side of where they test the trucks, there's a big water area. And they're going through it. They have been there's grass right there. Is there a trap there? Is there a tile there or a drain that's just been blocked with grass or what?
We would have to look. I believe there is a sewer in there. Memory serves me right, several years ago, Fleming ran a sewer across there. I can talk with Don about it and see if Don remembers.
If you just check and see if there's a catch basin, get that water away from that, because it freezes, they track it on, and it just wiping out that pavement.
I believe there is a sewer in there, though. It could just be debris.
Okay. Thank you.
Tim, what do you have?
I have two things. First is, after our last meeting, the Board of Works approved the revisions to the contract with Brian Cronister, authorized the mayor to sign it, and then it was presented to Mr. Cronister. He called me and indicated that he was not comfortable signing the agreement because he would ultimately be subject to responsibility for paying anything that exceeded $25,000 in costs. And I explained to Brian that the reason for that is we're limited on what we can spend without going through an appraisal process, which we were trying to avoid. I said, you know, from our understanding and after the environmental assessment, that proved to be a pretty clean bill of health, and so the cost of removal and or demolition and removal would we were very confident would fall within $25,000. He wouldn't be exposed to anything, but so, well, he says, if I sign that and then you run into a problem, then I would be. So he doesn't want to sign it. So the alternative, and I suggested this to him, is, look, if you don't want to be on the hook, then we will. We're confident that we're willing to take this building down, and that's based on Jeremy and Don's assessment of the building. If the big risk would be if there were an environmental issue, and then obviously you're going to have more remediation costs that could get you over that 25,000. The way to do this then, if the city is willing to assume that risk, is basically we buy the property for $1. So we've paid under 25,000. Now it's our property and we take it down at our cost, which is indirectly what we were going to do anyway. So it gets him off the hook and we assume the liability. So the issue then is, one, is Don and Jeremy pretty confident, and Kurt, that we're not going to have an issue that suddenly escalates our cost. And if they're satisfied that that's the case, then, we can go this route. The second thing is that I moved it back, the closing back to Friday the 20th of April, just because we're now 2 weeks later than what we originally thought. I needed to verify with you guys, is that long enough, or do I need to back that date out further, or do it sooner? I didn't know for sure about that.
No, just like any other project, you may come up with some unforeseens, we just can't say that this is what it's going to be, but we've been in the building enough times that we feel comfortable. Is there anything hiding that we can't see underground? You're not going to know. Environmental company...
Is there a basement on that?
I don't believe that there
No.
is on that portion.
It's just
I think
a
it's
slab.
on the slab. But the environmental company went through the building, he pulled all his samples, and nothing come back, in the building itself being asbestos or anything
Brian was
we'd
okay
have
with
to
this?
worry about.
We haven't seen that one yet.
He hadn't seen it because I needed you guys to say, are you willing to approve this? And then we'll present it to him. It gets him off the hook, which was his primary concern. He did raise one other issue, and that was the possibility of putting a sign on the wall once the building was down, which is something that was new to me. I hadn't heard any discussions about that, and frankly, I don't know that that's a good idea, because we don't know what that wall's ultimately going to look like, and whether a sign that he wants to put up there is going to be compatible with what we envision.
If you can put the sign up there, then
He can help.
responsible for the wall, because
Right.
we're going to have to put...
That's
Not only
because-
that building is having to put a $25,000 brick wall.
Yeah, you're going to be responsible for the facade of that exposed wall, which is a common wall right now.
How it works in the city, is that then our wall or his wall?
It's our wall, we control
The
it.
one over there is our wall,
Yeah,
That's our wall.
yeah.
because it's a wall built beside her wall, is what it is.
So, I guess if Brian wants to dicker about that, then, at some point, we're going to say, fine, then you take the building down at your cost.
Yeah.
Or we remind him that we've been putting this on hold since July because he was under a safety and health hazard. My personal opinion is, sign the contract, get it closed as quick as possible. I'll take the contract over and explain to him that no sign on the wall. If he doesn't like it, then I'll just tell him, all right, well, we've held off on this fine, we'll take it back to the beginning date, we'll go through that process. And then you can remove the building.
Sooner than later.
I don't want to push it off too far. I know you're going on spring break.
No, I have it ready to
I'm just kidding.
sign and get it to him. I'm tired of screwing around.
Just
Either
put the
way,
closing date as quick as possible, that's all I'm saying.
Well,
If it gets delayed because you have a full
No,
schedule, then
no.
let's push that close as we can. We wanted to get it done in January, but I understand the situation. Do you need a motion for that? Do you agree with it, guys? Kurt? Don?
Hold on, time out.
But
And
Well, how much money are we
whatever it
incurring
costs
here?
us to take this down is going to be funded from?
We were going to take
Unsafe
it from
building
the
fund?
unsafe building fund, but that's, you only have 150 this year, so I thought you had some other things coming up to take down.
It's gonna cost $150,000 to take that down.
No.
I'll do it myself.
No, I mean, you had some other things in the future to take down. Are you going to have enough for the year
Yeah.
with the 150? Okay.
we should be fine.
Yeah.
Some of the material will be grinding over time anyhow.
Right.
So some of it's going to be concrete.
Bricks and mortar concrete.
Okay, so,
just trying to cover and make sure everything's...
There.
I do want
On the
to
record.
caution you though, Tyler did make a very valid point that, we're not sure what the wall's going to look like when that comes off. So don't be surprised if we're doing it.
If structurally it's sound. If what is there is sound but not pretty, we don't have to build a brick wall. We can cover it with something else.
Yeah, we can do something.
Can't you do
I just,
stucco or something
I just
like
want to caution you that once it comes off, there may be some,
It's ours, yeah.
some more of that hidden cost there.
All right.
Because the upper is already shot, isn't it? Above it? That's on his building now? I think like the stucco is falling off the brick.
As far as we saw, it goes back to a concrete wall.
It goes to a concrete.
Concrete poured wall, is that right, Donnie?
That's a pre-stressed building.
It's a pre-stressed concrete building.
Column on the,
Brick. The common wall is brick.
even the interior side of it is brick.
So you're saying that once brick is pulled down, it'll be brick?
It all depends on what's in there, how many walls is in there. Across the street, you had 3 walls. Outside wall, common wall,
Right,
and the building wall.
And there's really no way to tell that yet.
until it comes down.
Not a really easy, safe way to figure that out.
Yikes.
I'm not afraid of it by no means. I'm just making you aware that let's get it down early in case we get into some unforeseen issues.
And the whole thing
I'm good.
is let's clean up the corner.
I want the corner
That towards-
as a city. I mean, we want the corner or we want not.
We want control of it.
I think so. So I'll make a motion that we continue on with the contract with as quick a closing cost as we can, or quick a closing date as we can, so we
I
get this
agree.
project behind us.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
That motion also authorizes the mayor to sign it on behalf of the city, too.
What Tim said.
So moved.
What else you got, Tim?
Second thing has been discussed off and on for a number of months, and that's this memorandum of agreement with the county and the other municipalities regarding the upgrades to the emergency, or the Adams County Emergency Mobile Terminal System.
Have you talked to the county then on this since?
I spoke with Stacy about the original memorandum that was submitted. If you recall, a few weeks ago, there was a memorandum sent, and at the time, we thought there was some urgency. Afterwards, we found out there wasn't. But
I don't know if all the council members know about that or not.
okay, well, a few weeks ago, there was I got an email. This was
You and I.
the February 6th meeting, I think, when we had so many things going on related to the water bond issue, and I got an email from Stacy at about 5:15 in the afternoon, sending me this memorandum, said...
On Monday.
Said we need to have this reviewed because the commissioners are going to meet Tuesday morning at 10, and I'd like to submit this for their consideration. Well, I was working on the water bond stuff, so I sent it to Ken and said, get this out to everybody. Apparently, we need to review this and make a decision. Stacy assured me that that was not their intent. He was just trying to get it to me to let me know that if there were changes that we thought we would like to see made, we'd have a chance to respond to it. So in the meantime, I had called Dave Baumgartner, and Dave didn't know anything about it, nor did the mayor, so Ken sent it to the mayor. Yeah, and then the mayor sent it to Dave, and I talked to Dave the next day, and he said, well, I'm not comfortable signing this, or having the city sign it. And I said, well, I haven't looked at it carefully, but it bothered me just from what I read of it. Afterwards, I looked at it a little more carefully. What it did is it commits the city to agreeing to share based on our population of the cost. And that's always been kind of a sticking point with the municipalities about whether, aren't we already paying for it as county taxpayers? And why are we paying a second time when county residents, meaning those that live in the unincorporated areas, are not? Whether you get into that argument or not, I think when the last meeting that was held at the jail, it seemed that everybody was kind of accepting the fact that this had to be figured out somehow in terms of an allocation, and maybe we just go ahead and do it this way. But the memorandum seemed to say that we were committing to sign an agreement without knowing what the terms and conditions of the agreement were. So I called Stacy and I said, I wasn't comfortable with that language. Can we modify it first to make sure that it's clear that any ultimate definitive agreement would be subject to fiscal body approval, because in an interlocal agreement, which is what this amounts to, the fiscal bodies of each of the parties have to approve it. So, I wanted to make sure it was clear that we weren't necessarily, by signing this memorandum, already committing ourselves to being forced to sign whatever the agreement was, whether we liked it or not. So he made some modifications to address that. The second concern is that, assuming that we pay based on our population, which is about 20%, 27%, then the issue is, what is that a figure of? In other words, what do you multiply that percentage to? And that we don't know. There's nothing in here that says that, and I don't know if that's ever actually been determined. So
It's the same formula as seeded funding, is where they come up with that.
yeah, it is. So I don't know if, the memorandum has been modified. I want to bring it to your attention. I'll try to get copies of this out to all of you so you can look it over. But at some point, we're going to be asked to sign this. So if you've got problems with it, I would like you to weigh in and give me your input so I can go back to Stacy and say, okay, council's still not comfortable with this and we need to make more changes.
Are you saying that if we sign the memorandum of understanding, saying that we're good for 27% of whatever this costs?
You're committing to that percentage. I'm not saying you're committing to the agreement itself.
What is
Okay.
the ultimate goal here? What that they're trying to accomplish?
Well, it all seemed to originate from the fact that the sheriff felt that the demands on dispatchers was becoming such a problem that he was either going to have to hire a lot more personnel, or he was going to have to find ways to lessen dispatchers handling non-emergency calls in order to allow them to actually respond in a more timely fashion to emergency calls. In part, I think he felt that, and the county felt that, because the county always provided that service to Bern, but up until probably 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe even longer, the city of Decatur did its own dispatching. And if you recall, the mayor decided that, well, if the county's doing this for other municipalities, why aren't you doing it for us?
Right.
And so, as a cost-saving measure, he basically said, we're ending our dispatching service, you're going to take it over and do it just like you do it for everybody else.
Right.
And at the time, there was some money, I think we paid towards some upgrades at that point for the county to do it. We did that. County took it over. But now, it seems to be that there's this concern that dispatching cannot respond timely to emergency calls because they're so tied up dealing with non-emergency calls. And a good part of those non-emergency calls supposedly are being originated by the municipal police forces or fire departments. So what they're saying is, because you're creating this problem, you should help pay for the solution. The solution, as they ended up kind of evolving to this, was putting in an updated system that's pretty significant in cost, and then there'd be an ongoing commitment that we would pay for an annual expense, with the understanding that this is probably going to go up over time. So that's what this is all about. And
So, how hard would it be to figure out whether, in the long run, it'd be cheaper for us to take it back?
I think the county feels that it would be cost prohibitive for us to do it ourselves.
Did this start
Compared
with
to-
the county, or did it start with the sheriff?
Sheriff.
So we're going to have a new sheriff January 1. Do you have a different opinion?
I think he's looking at it from the standpoint that it's something that needs to be done, and whether he does it or the next guy up is going to have to face it. So he's just trying to, what he claims is he's trying to be proactive and address it so it's not a problem for the guy that's coming in behind him. And I'm not faulting Shane. I think he probably is looking at the future, and I think there are some advantages for the police department and the fire department to be tied into this system. It allows for communications countywide to be consistent.
If I really would use that, that would be...
It allows police departments to be able to do things more efficiently in terms of filing reports, communicating where they are if they're going to stop for some reason. Right now, if a police officer stops to go in someplace, they call into dispatch. Dispatch then relays that to, and so that's a non-emergency call. And those are self-created calls,
Right.
and they were tracking data to show when those calls occurred and the peak volume and that sort of thing.
Can
So
we at some point see whether our fire department, our police department, what they have to say, what you're getting ready to do?
Yeah, I'm going to ask Lenny. Hey, Lenny, have you made any administrative changes that take away the non-emergency 911 calls at your department?
Yes.
How much have you reduced it?
A lot.
Will you let us know some facts and figures? Do you have a report on that from what we had in last year, 2017,
Okay.
on calls per month, non-emergency? I know they've got it at the county level because I'm on that communications committee. But if we could find out how much we've reduced that by just different administration and rules that you have as a, I'm just saying.
no, I absolutely agree.
Because
I
if
think
we're already
we
paying
are-
it to the county through our tax dollars anyway,
Yeah.
why do we need to pay another 20% just because they
Right.
follow a seated rule?
So we need to know
How
what our
funding
fire
goes in the
department,
county.
our police department...
That's exactly what we need to know.
Yeah.
Where's Les? He gone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a report you can get from us for 2017, if anything's
We
changed?
can work on that. Our runs have doubled. It's going to be kind of tough here right now. Our runs have doubled from picking up our med runs and stuff, but how we code in and everything, but I'll talk to us about that.
Because I remember in that meeting, there was a lot of calls into dispatch where you guys are now calling them right into your own office, right? Or using digital terminal to find out the information instead of having to go through dispatch?
Yeah. All of our runs have to go through that for an academy for a computer-aided dispatch.
Okay, I guess we know where we're at. You know what we're asking, right?
Yeah.
If you can give us some kind of report to where we can see a delta or a change in that?
Now, Lenny, and I don't know how involved you've been in or how up to date you are, because I know Greg and Mike sat in on a lot of the meetings initially.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they filled you in, but do you see advantages to your department to be tied into this system, and what are the pros and cons of that?
Well, everything that, like our guys right now, they call in everything to the county, no matter if it's non-emergency or self-initiated calls or dispatch calls that we answer. We've been very busy as far as call-wise every day, various kinds of calls. We do get some phone calls to the city from the elderly people that are used to our phone numbers, but our secretary calls the county to dispatch our guys, like a golf cart check, unlock the car, funeral escort sometimes.
Is that necessary?
I think people don't realize that we went to central communication with the sheriff's department. I think they're still calling the local police department number. And they might get that off the internet.
Well, the public doesn't know, too.
Well, yeah.
We had in our neighborhood an injured goose. So 2 people called me and said, who do you call? I don't want to call 911, it's not an emergency. But the public doesn't know a non-emergency number.
Yeah, that
Where
goose
do you go to
is
get
flopping
that?
around in our street, too.
Well, you know, is there administrative things we could do on our fire department or our police department that would knock that number down? Because to me, a more reasonable share of this thing would be what we actually use, the user fee, rather than our population percentage. You know what I'm saying, Ken? Do you agree with that?
Could end up costing us more.
Oh, yeah.
I know when we upgraded our phone system a couple of years ago, I know I had a conversation with Tim and Ken both, is we discussed, I get a lot of calls from the sheriff's department too throughout the week. Hey, you know, I had a call, you know, little old lady called about this, or little old lady called about that. We get a bunch of those. You know, we talked about at some point going to, you know, just the local non-emergencies, the potholes, stuff like that, instead of sending them through the PD, and the sheriff's department was doing like a 311 or something.
Fort Wayne.
And
311 salt.
when we upgraded our phone system, Kip set us up for that. It's just not turned on. When Kip Pancake set that up, so that may be an option. You know, it may or may not directly affect this problem, but you know, communication citywide and even you know, to help dispatch out and such, if we do initiate that, get it out there so the people know, well, now I have to look up the 724-3356 number to call, or who do I call?
But the 311 could...
311, 211, 611, whatever, you know, is more, it's like the 911.
Right.
You know, people remember the 911.
Right.
And it's still something on my radar that at some point I would really like to see, because I think it would kind of streamline some of the who do I call calls.
Well, I do know this is going to come up, so I think I wanted to bring it to your attention. You guys think through this, and I'll try to get copies of this out, the most current version. You can look at it, but I know Mayor McKean pulled me aside after the solid waste district meeting this morning, and he's not comfortable with this, and I think he questions the allocation. He still goes back to that and doesn't feel that that's right.
He still feels as though people in the municipalities are paying twice.
Right, and that's my feeling I get from that. Why are we paying twice?
Right.
When the people in the county get the same service for
one time.
And this has been discussed at length at probably at least 2 or 3 meetings. And you know, the county is adamant that this is the way they think it's fairest.
But doesn't mean that's the way it is, though.
Maybe we need to take 5 or 7 in there instead of just 1 or 2. Is there a motion or anything we do?
No, I'll get copies of this out to you.
Thanks for the information. I think it's very valuable.
Anything else? Phyllis, you have anything?
Oh, I think Chairman has quotes, don't you?
Yeah, I still had a couple of things while we move on.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
In the 2018 MVH budget, I had budgeted a pickup truck for replacement. Our fleet citywide is getting really aged. The last couple of years, we had budgeted for a couple pickup trucks, and they kind of got pushed aside for some other equipment. So I did solicit 2 quotes for basically a 3/4 ton pickup truck, 4-wheel drive. I was really kind of shocked once I started pricing, because Ford has always been so much cheaper. Nobody else could really ever come close to them. But I'll cut to the chase here. I priced through Shifley Dodge and Kelly Ford. Shifley Dodge come back at $31,272. Their base price, or their total price, was $44,220. So that's a huge savings. That's over $13,000 off the list. Ford's total was $42,680. With all their deductions, they come back at $39,233.32.
Say it again, 39 what?
$39,233.32.
What was
I did budget.
What was the Dodge?
$30,000 in the budget.
$31,272.
We're $1,272 over, which is not a problem. There's some other money in there. So to start out with, I'd like to ask for permission to order a truck for the street department. And then also at the same time, I had shared some of these numbers with the wastewater department, because the wastewater department's about the same shape we're in, and also stormwater. On the storm, I'll start out with the stormwater.
When you're saying stormwater, you're talking Don.
Don's vehicle, correct, sorry. That was purchased in 2003. It has 80,000 miles on it. It's just a little SUV that Don is doing way more.
Don looks so good in it, though.
I saw it today.
Way more in the field and needs to be able to haul tools versus that vehicle that he has.
How many trucks you need?
I would recommend 3.
Of the Dodges?
Yep, 1 for MBH, 1 for storm, paid out of storm, and 1 paid out of wastewater. I did check with Dan, or not Dan, but Kevin. Kevin's fine with it. He said there's plenty of money there to cover.
They do us any better for 3?
And there may be a little bit. They were kind of
Work 'em.
when I was
Work 'em.
talking more than 1.
Storm, MVH, and who?
Wastewater.
Okay.
These are a little bit more of a truck than what we normally buy, but with incentives, there's not. Cost-wise, it's a lot better.
Are they 3/4 ton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Set up to be able to pull equipment, pull generators, pull whatever we need to pull with. So.
All right.
They're really, really nice.
Do you need a motion?
So you don't have to add any hitches
But
or
it
anything?
had the,
It's all
have
there.
the,
It's all there. We're
Statement.
ordering right from...
not to exceed this.
Yeah, motion to purchase 3 pickup trucks if you can, with your
Negotiable.
work negotiating that price down, taking 3.
And then one other thing, really
Ken?
quick. Also in 18...
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same?
Also in 18's budget, we approved buying a dump truck from Adams County Highway Department. I had $7,000 set aside in the budget for that. It was looking, it was going to be around that 7,000 range. They did trade, make their deals on their trade. It come back at 10,500, which there's plenty of money there in the budget. It'll be a few months before the truck's available.
This was the county's?
It's a tandem axle dump truck that, it's a used one that they're trading in. Now, our goal is they basically be able to stockpile stone and do some removal jobs and stuff with it. It's a much larger truck than what we have. We're hauling stone out of Poe, so it kind of really tears us up hauling that far. To buy a truck like that, it's about $225,000 when you buy them new.
You get the bed with it too?
Yeah, I
For
get
10.5?
The bed, the underbody, everything.
Motion to buy the truck.
What is, why are they trading it? What's wrong with it?
They're just in rotation. Every so many years, they buy 2 trucks every year.
It's their budget. Motion to buy the truck.
Second.
I spec the truck when I work down there, so it's still a good truck.
The International?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Motion to close. Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same? We're adjourned for